Oh, she's not?
Well,
Is she? Oh, shoot, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this DHAP broadcast. As you know, the program has come to an end, but we will continue to hold these broadcasts so that we can give you up-to-date information as to where we are in the process. With us today, we have Nicholas Hickman, who will be discussing closeout activities, reconciliation, and hopefully answering some of the financial questions that you may have. We've also got Lawrence Fennerty, who will be discussing site visits and file reviews, as well as tips and things that you can do as well when reviewing your files. And we have Teresa Palladino with us, who will be discussing case management and questions that we usually have asked either through email or through the FAQs. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Couple of things just to mention really quick. We have not received a reply yet as to where our package is in the concurrence process for the SOPs or the program notice for the actual process through the extension. However, we will go ahead and begin with all conversion activities, or actually pre-conversion activities. These are the items that, as we've discussed before, and Teresa, maybe you can elaborate throughout the course of the broadcast a little bit more on these duties, but everything from the pre-screening activities that will take us up to, ideally, the conversion activities, should we get the conversion vouchers. Now, something really important to note is that we have not received word on whether or not we will have conversion vouchers, but because we've got that very short window time frame, January 31st, or 60 days from the date that we are told that we've received these vouchers, it's important that you get started. Anything you'd like to add to that, or any tips that you have or advice?
As Judith touched on, our PIH notice will definitely go into pre-conversion activities and will spell out what those consist of and how you'll be funded. We don't have, as Judith mentioned, we don't have that notice approved just yet, but we expect that within the week. But to touch on it briefly, that will include screening families for eligibility and HQS inspections, only for families who are wishing to lease in place. But again, I'll probably go into that in a little more detail later on in the broadcast.
Great, thank you. Now, this is important to make sure that we emphasize throughout this broadcast, because conversion activities, or the pre-conversion activities that we're looking at right now, will be paid for through our current DHAP agreement with FEMA. Now, we've had some questions come up of, if I do it now, but I have to do it again because we got vouchers past the 60 days that this conversion activity is valid for, what should we do?
Right.
And in situations like that.
Right. Judith brought up a good point. Again, when you do these pre-conversion activities, please adhere to the policies of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. These activities are associated now with the Housing Choice Voucher Program and not so much DHAP-IKE. So please make sure you're doing these activities in accordance with your admin plan and the CFR. Judith touched on a 60-day limit per, I don't have it in my notes, I don't want to talk loosely, but per the CFR, any eligibility determination has an expiration date. I believe it's up to 60 days. So if you do your inspection today, your eligibility assessment today, and that should expire, again, adhere to your admin plan on what you all do when, because we don't have the vouchers now, when that 60-day limit has expired. Do we have to reassess that family? If you do, how would that funding be handled? Because again, the fees associated with the pre-conversion activities are one-time fees only. You'll get only one fee for inspection, one fee for eligibility determination.
And again, these fees are tied to the DHAP agreement that we currently have with FEMA. And now this is important to note because, again, we mentioned that we have not heard yet if we should get conversion vouchers, what they're thinking. We don't have any indication which way it's going to go or whatnot. But what we do know is that we did commit to FEMA, and it was very important for them to know that we would begin these duties or these conversion activities prior to the possibility of getting the conversion vouchers, because it's very important time-wise that we have all of these things done should we get them. So FEMA really wanted to ensure one way or the other we are making sure these conversion activities happen, or pre-conversion activities happen, so that when we're told that we have them, we can begin processing as quickly as possible and have the families assisted as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, please email us, call us, email the DHAP email box, call us directly, email us directly, whichever, but let us know. We'll be covering quite a bit of information in this broadcast, so at any point, if you have any questions at all whatsoever, jot it down and get back to us as quickly as possible, and we'll try and either answer you directly or include it in the large synopsis that we tend to send out after our DHAP broadcasts. So with that, I will go to Nicholas Hickman, who will talk to us a little bit about reconciliation and all financial questions that we've been getting in, and just some advice and direction on how to go about the end of DHAP Ike.
Great. Thank you, Judith. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss briefly the process of the reconciliation and closing out the funds for the DHAP Ike program. The reconciliation and closeout of Ike funds will begin with the reconciliation calculations and letters sent out to housing authorities on or around November 9th. These fees, the fees that will be closed out, vary depending on your housing authority. There are essentially two groups of housing authorities right now, as there is an extension. There are housing authorities that are participating in the extension, and there are housing authorities that are not participating in the extension. So each fee is specific based on which category of category of housing authority you're in. So the 6 fees that are being closed out are the HAP, which will be broken out amongst whether you are a housing authority that is participating in the extension and not participating. For housing authorities that are participating in the extension, and this goes forward for the other fees that will be mentioned, those housing authorities will not have that specific fee closed out. So for HAP, if you're participating in extension, you will not begin the closeout of that fee category. But if you are not participating in the extension, then you will begin to receive the reconciliation and closeout for that fee. Case management, all PHAs will receive reconciliation closeout emails to begin that closeout. Administrative fee. That fee will be closed out only for the PHAs not participating in the extension, as administrative fees will be assessed for housing authorities that are participating in the extension. Security and utility deposits. As you recall, there was an interim reconciliation performed for these fees, and now that we have the program has come to a close for some of the PHAs, and even with regard to the PHAs that are continuing on with the extension, those 2 fees will be closed out for all PHAs as well, specifically because those fees are associated with first leases. At this point in the program, first leases would have occurred at least as early as March 2010. And that goes the same for placement fees. Placement fees will be reconciled and closed out for all housing authorities. Again, housing authorities, you will begin to receive notification of this on or around November 9th. Please note that as I describe the process of these files and how the data is pulled together and from what systems are pulled together, that the timing of the available data from VMS, which is one of the data sources for the closeout for 3 of these fees, the calculations for HAP, is the only one that's impacted by this. But because of the timing of the available data from VMS, housing authorities that that did not assist families as of August 2011, according to the data that's entered in DIS, will receive the reconciliation and closeout of their HAP on or around November 9th. If DIS shows that there are families that your housing authority assisted as of August 2011, then you will receive your reconciliation closeout for HAP after November 15th, when the new VMS data becomes available for the month of September. Once we receive that data from VMS, we can then incorporate it into the file. There are about 65 housing authorities that meet this criteria, that they did not assist families in the month of August, according to DIS. Housing authorities that show families assisted through September, as I mentioned before, will have their calculations sent out on November 15th or after. For those housing authorities that will begin the closeout process on November 9th, emails will be sent out to those housing authorities for each of the fees to be closed out. As I mentioned before, this, depending on which category of fee is being reconciled and closed. This email will include an Excel file containing a receipt of the calculation for the specific fee, along with a listing of DIS records that are eligible for that fee, and a letter to correspond to that specific fee level, describing what the fee is that's being closed out, and what the amount is either owed back to HUD or what the HUD owes your housing authority to close the program out. Bear in mind with the Excel file, because it contains sensitive data as it relates to the individual family as listed in DIS, the family will be password protected according to the standard PHA passwords. And that information will also be detailed in the email. And as I mentioned, each calculation file is specific to a fee that's being closed. So when reviewing that family detail list, bear in mind that family detail is of the DIS record as it's entered in DIS that meets the criteria to be eligible for that fee. Moving on, each fee is calculated based on the most recent and available data in DIS, VMS, and the amount of funds dispersed to your housing authority over the course of the program. Not all fees, as I mentioned before, utilize VMS data for the calculation. Of the 6 fees that will be reconciled and closed out, HAP, as I mentioned again, HAP, security deposits, utility deposits, utilize VMS data in the calculation to close out program funds. For each of these fees calculation files, HAP, security, and utility deposit, the data will be summarized in the following format. At the top of the first tab on that Excel file, and the tab will be labeled HA for Housing Authority, will list your Housing Authority program code, your Housing Authority name as entered by HUD. Then going down the left side of that, left side of the file will be all the months of the program was in existence, starting in November 2008 through September 2011. Again, it's September 2011 for the PHAs that are not participating in the extension. Now, specifically for security and utility deposits, as they are both using VMS data, there's a slight difference as it relates to HAP. As you're well aware, with VMS, you enter in the expenses incurred for HAP, security deposits, utility deposits. With security and utility deposits, there are 2 fields of information that VMS we're using from VMS. That's the paid column and the return column. We use those 2 columns to net out the VMS total expense incurred that we then balance against DIS and the amount dispersed. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. That calculation for DIS, VMS, and the amount dispersed is based on the lower of the amount entered in VMS or the amount eligible in DIS. So whichever has the total lowest number is then matched against what was dispersed to your housing authority over the course of the program. The net difference will determine whether HUD owes your housing authority funds to close out or whether your housing authority owes additional funds that were sent to your housing authority back to HUD. The remaining 3 fees, placement, admin, and case management fees, as you're aware, placement fees were also part of that interim reconciliation. So a large part of that work has already been done, and we thank you very much for the efforts that you've gone through to clean up those records. These 3 fees only utilize DIS and the amount of money dispersed from HUD to your housing authority over the course of the program. The format of this Excel file is similar to what, as I mentioned, with the HAP security and utility deposits. However, it will not have the VMS consideration. The calculation only takes into account the eligible DIS records for the fee, for the specific fee, based on the criteria set out in the operating procedures of the program, and measures that against the total amount dispersed to your housing authority to date. Based on that calculation, overfunded housing authorities are to return those additional funds back to HUD, and underfunded housing authorities, based on this calculation, should expect that HUD will be sending the additional funds back to your housing authority to close out the program. As I mentioned previously, the criteria used to select eligible lease records in DIS is based on the program's operating requirements. Please refer to those procedures. If you have any questions, please contact us here at HUD to help you update DIS in the appropriate way so that it meets the criteria to be included in that calculation and closeout. Some questions have come up in the past that we worked, especially in the interim closeout or the interim reconciliation, is that how should we review this file? As I mentioned, the description of the HA tab on that Excel file, the additional tabs that will be there relate to the families, the detail, of the DIS record for the specific family that is eligible for that fee. Now, depending on the fee, you may have 1 or 2 tabs. In the HAP closeout, or the HAP reconciliation file, you'll have 1 tab, and that just lists all the families' DIS records, whether they have 1 lease record or 3 lease records or 9 lease records, and it will detail out what exactly was entered in DIS and those fields that are being used to calculate the HAP for the DIS portion of that file. The very first thing I would recommend to do is go down the list of families and ensure that every family, household on that list is what you would expect to see on either your HAP registry or what you have on file as who you assisted during the course of the program. If there are any families not listed on that, that would be your first catch of, I need to go find out which or why this family is not being included in the calculation. As we've seen in the past, some of that could be due to a checkbox not being checked of the 3 checkboxes, or a lease date not matching with the requirements of the program, or the FMR is 0 and it should have an amount listed there, or the HAP total is 0 and there should be an amount there. There are a number of reasons why it could have fallen out of the calculation, and we ask that you go back and recheck the records to ensure that it may not be just a simple error, but may need further technical assistance, in which case you can contact us here at HUD to work with you to fix that record. As it relates to placement fees, it's the same. You'll have just 1 tab listing the families, in which case it identifies, with placement there are 2, please excuse me, that has to do with the first lease, it's the initial lease, or families that you have listed as EOP for placed in permanent housing. Now, the household can only get one or the other, and depending on who the PHA is assigned to. So if the family qualified for initial lease at one housing authority, and then ported to another housing authority, and then was placed in permanent housing, the first housing authority would earn the fee for initially signing leasing up the family. However, the two tabs will list out each of the families that earn the fee. For administrative fees, that will list out the families that were assigned to your housing authority for the first 9 months as in a summary number, as that data has been pulled at a point in time back in June of 2009. For after the first 9 months of the program, the requirements state that the family has to be leased up in order to receive the fee. And that will be based on eligible HAP lease records, which you could essentially tie back to the HAP reconciliation. But then the requirements state that it's 14% of the HAP eligible for that month. Additionally, we have case management fees. That's $100 per family per month, and that is listed, and that will list all the families that earn that fee. Security and utility deposits will show 2 tabs on each. One will be the family records that show the security or utility deposits, and the amount is valid as entered in the system. The second tab will say capped families, and for capped families, that refers to that the amount of the security or utility deposit entered in DIS is greater than what is approved under the operating requirements. So bear in mind, for security deposits, it's capped at the FMR. The security deposit cannot exceed the FMR, and for utility deposits, it cannot exceed $400. So if it meets that capped criteria, then it will be on that separate tab of capped. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us here at HUD. We can certainly walk you through the files on a one-on-one basis and help you with the DIS record updates as well. Thank you. I'll pass this back to Julie.
Thank you. You raised some excellent points that we've received a lot of questions on, specifically the issue of placement fees. I know that over time we've gotten questions on who it's appropriate to hang on to the fee for having placed the family. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that sometimes there's a bit of a gray area because effort goes into working with these families either way, but unfortunately, because of the way that our operating procedures are written and because of the agreement that we have with FEMA, we can only award that fee to one PHA. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll definitely refer back to where this all is within our SOPs. You also mentioned that a lot of, or all of, the reconciliation information that people will be getting back and that you're basing all of your criteria on is what has been entered in DIS. So this really drives home the point that you've been saying throughout the course of these broadcasts of please clean up your data, please make sure that the information in there, all the boxes that are appropriate need to be checked. It's interesting that one box can make a difference. Have you seen that a lot?
Oh yeah, on a number of occasions it could be that the IRT box wasn't checked and the actual valid amount that the family was eligible for the exception to the IRT wasn't entered, or the date wasn't entered correctly, or was entered on the wrong month. So it could be just a slight change that could affect whether the record is eligible or not eligible for funding.
And so as you have all been working on the utility fees and the placement fees, the deposits, the reconciliation that, as you mentioned, started a few months ago, you'll be offering the same kind of assistance or the same level of technical advice for these bigger fees that we're talking about and closing out the program. So any tips? I know that you mentioned go through the list and check for your families, but any other small shortcuts that you can think of off the top of your head right now that you...
As it relates to the VMS, the fees that use VMS, just ensure that the VMS data is up to date of the expenses you incurred, as well as it is important that the amount of expenses incurred is entered to the corresponding month that it should have been made or actually made. Mm-hmm. However, bear in mind it's the net total of the amount entered in VMS that will affect the calculation.
Got it. And you also mentioned the timing of the data in VMS determines how the reconciliation information is gone out. So when we send our notes, we'll also send kind of a breakdown of that, just maybe to show everyone visually, if it's between this date and this date, as you mentioned, you'll get this, and if it's this date and this date. And really important point to mention, we understand that we still have a lot of active and participating PHAs, but for those who are no longer active or participating, we really would like to use this time with you all to begin all of these activities as quickly as possible. Granted, of course, we know we have a closeout period after our extension, which is through January 31st, but we don't want that to sneak up on anyone, so we definitely would like to work with everyone. And also, we gain a lot of experience from the different scenarios that we see. So as we see them, you make FAQs for us. So if you have any quirks or difficult cases or scenarios or anything like that, definitely shoot them over to Nick, because we develop all of our FAQs and talking points from situations like that. And what may be going wrong at your PHA or what may be an issue causing someone difficulty would probably benefit other PHAs down the road as well. So for all PHAs who are no longer active, call, email, contact us, and let's get started on this reconciliation. And for those who have, we really appreciate you. So with that, we'll turn it over to Lawrence Fenerty with site visits and file reviews.
Yes, good morning. As Judith just mentioned, I'll be discussing the procedures related to these site visits and file reviews. And I guess right off the bat, I just want to state that we will be sending out a formal notice informing you exactly when your files need to be closed. And along with that, we'll be sending you a detailed checklist that will let you know every document that needs to be in there. And that's key, because pretty much you can go through this checklist. If it's in there, you check it off, and just keep in mind that these files will be subject to further audits potentially down the road. So you just want to make sure everything is accurate and complete. Using this information, you obviously review all your files and send back. We will be visiting a handful of PHAs, but the PHAs we don't visit, we'll be sending out the exact same file review checklists and procedures, and you'll be required to go through that list and send us back a report stating which files are complete and therefore closed, and then also document and address any files that aren't closed. And again, this will be laid out in an email and provide you with specific dates as to when these files need to be closed, as I mentioned. As far as the checklist itself, it's broken down into 3 sections. The first being leasing documents, such as a copy of the executed lease, DRSC, and just make sure it's signed by the landlord and PHA. Documents supporting unit inspection, signed family obligation sheets. There's a pretty long list, but it's just easy to follow along. If it's in there, it's in there. If it's not, it needs to be addressed. The second area will be related to continued eligibility, IRT, and hardship documentation. That will involve making sure that the IRT was properly implemented in May and that quarterly continued eligibility verifications were done on a quarterly basis from July 31st on. Additionally, copies of income documentation will need to be provided, and also make sure that the IRT exception dates match in DIS. And in general, as far as all dates with the HAP leases, the DRSC, that everything matches in DIS. That's very key. And third is end of participation documentation, such as if a family was EOP'd, you want to make sure that documentation is in there supporting that they were given a notice prior to termination, that notice was signed. If there are any appeals, that all documentation related to those appeals are in your files. And then also the calculations related to the family's income and the amount of rate, or the amount that they're paying under the IRT exception. We'll also be verifying that and if those calculations were done correctly. And on that note, you can find those calculations in the SOPs. And you'll probably want to go back in, double check all that was done correctly, that everything's in that file. And these will be sent, like I said, to every PHA, and they'll also be sent to the PHAs that we actually visit as well ahead of time, so they can have all their files in order. And that is pretty much it. It's an easy rundown, as I said. It's going to be that checklist, and it's going to be very detailed, and it'll provide even an additional tab with extra detail of why those documents need to be in there. So you just got to make sure everything's in there, and you should be good to go.
Great, thank you. And I know you've had some site visits lately.
Yeah.
What was it, last month or so? And the site visits were pretty productive, right?
They were, definitely.
Great. And then you took the checklist with you to the PHAs.
The checklist was there. And I'd sent it out to, I'd say, at least 20 PHAs over the past few months, just preparing for this closeout ahead of time. And we'll have a new one to send out to you, like I said, shortly, along with that formal notice, providing you with the exact dates of when these files need to be closed.
And the great thing about the checklist, at least I think it's great, maybe others differ in opinion, but it was created based on all of the site reviews that we'd had, not just during Katrina, but also in the early days during Ike, but also it came from a lot of the things that during the IG audits we were penalized for, or maybe they weren't nearly as obvious to find throughout the course of the file. So when we all worked on this checklist together, we got buy-in from a lot of PHAs as well, from the things that we'd seen in them. So, just some of the files that you've seen were already kind of in the file or the flow of the checklist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely were.
Which is great, because it goes to show that, we took it from the structure that kind of already existed and just incorporated all these other elements. Going back to the IG calculations, you mentioned the importance of calculations. That is probably the second biggest thing that we get called out for doing either QAD reviews when the QAD team went out, but also IG. Let's talk a little bit about calculations, because I think that this is kind of it's critical, but it's also really misunderstood. We need that documentation to be able to show this is how we came up with that. So what are some of the pros and the cons that you've seen out there?
It's one thing if you do the calculations and then just have the end product, like the numbers, that the family's paying this amount. But on the recent site visits that I went to, I did notice that most PHAs had a template worked out, and it had the formula, it had the income, it had what documents supported that income, and then it had the calculation, what the family pays. That would be very helpful if that's not in your file. If you want to look in the SOPs, the calculations, spelled out for you right there, and sort of just tie together everything with the documentation you have. And if you could create, a template that just sort of puts everything on one page, and then you can tie it back to the documentation in that folder, that would be very helpful. And also, it's, be a fact checker for you, just to assure that everything was done correctly. And if it's not, you can start to address it earlier than later, because you're going to want these files to be complete.
Excellent. And we know that a lot of the PHAs have had quite a bit of, as the program starts to downsize and obviously came to an end, we've had a lot of turnover. So a lot of these files, the individuals that left at the PHAs who are in charge now of reconciling them were not the individuals who in fact created them early on. So we know that you'll be facing some difficulties. So definitely email and call Lawrence here. He will help you through. There's nothing he hasn't seen so far that's been too daunting. You can make order or sense of it all, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. And if you're wondering, as I mentioned, financial calculations were the number 2 thing that we usually get dinged on. The number 1 thing that we usually get dinged on, signatures, DRSCs, and dates. So simple, but incredibly critical, and not something that we can go back and backdate or backsign or anything like that. So I think just consistently throughout both Katrina and Rita and Gustav and Ike, that's been the number 1 thing that comes up in our audits and reviews, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. We find that a lot in the feedback we get from OIG and our quality assurance division, that necessary contracts and documents just are not signed. It's so critical, as that also validates payments. Certainly, we've had to work with the OIG many times in discussions, validating payments and validating PHA's work with families and landlords. But again, it comes down to, was there a contract that binded those payments in that agreement?
Exactly. So if you have any of those questions and you need any assistance, again, there's nothing that frightens Lawrence. He will help you through any hairy issues that you have in any of these files. And again, we completely understand that many of you are inheriting files that you've never worked on yourself, because there was at one time a large number of staff working on these. So definitely email, call, contact us, and we'll help you with any of that we can. So with that, we turn it over to Teresa Palladino for case management and all other things DHAP.
Well, fortunately, we already spoke about many of my talking points already. It was good to talk it out in conversation.
But rehashing them is good too, right?
But in a little bit of a follow-up to what Lawrence shared with you all, per the grant agreement and the SOPs, please bear in mind that you are required to keep your hard files for 3 years. So again, please take some time to review them, ensure their accuracy. There will be audits following the program, and again, you're required to keep them for 3 years at minimum. So please ensure that you do. Again, although DHAP Ike case management side of the program has ended as of September 30th, please keep in mind the following. If your agency contracted out case management services, please ensure that the files are returned to you and upon the conclusion of the program. So upon the conclusion of case management, please ensure those files are returned to you as soon as possible. You do not have to wait until the end of the extension. Upon review of your case management hard files, make sure they contain the following: a signed copy of the individual development plan, a signed copy of the certification of family obligations, a signed release of information, and any information related to referrals made on behalf of a family. We know, the department knows, and certainly all of us here at the table know how much work and dedication you put into case management. We want to thank everyone who completed the case management survey. Your responses will be instrumental in helping the department make improvements upon the case management aspect of the program should DHAP ever be utilized. Also, nearly all grantees participated in the multiple data download trainings offered by InfoPath. We thank you for attending those trainings and participating, and we hope you are all successful in downloading your case management data. And a special thank you from Ms. Iyaba Morrison, who I know many of you work with on a regular basis. Iyaba wanted to thank you for your patience during the case management email blitzes of last week. I know there are a lot of emails going out, or the last 2 weeks of September. So thank you for your patience. The data inputs were numerous, so thanks for all the efforts made to ensure the data was correct. I mean, I know that Judith wanted to touch on case management as well.
Absolutely. During the broadcast, I know I sometimes get on a soapbox about the fact that it's through case management that we got the granularity, the data, the kind of the statistics to the numbers on the families. And we can't thank you enough for that, because had it not been for the data and for all the hard work and all of your information on these families, I really don't think we would have gotten as many extensions as we have in this program. I mean, you genuinely made the case for these families that were the most needy. And I know we mentioned this on every broadcast. Thank you for that, and thank you for all your work in trying to let us know the different scenarios that are out there, because that is what makes a very compelling case for these conversion vouchers. And it's shared with the states that you are all in, and it's shared with FEMA, and it's shared with the stakeholders and OMB, and that information makes its way all the way up to the White House. And it really gives some meaning and depth to disasters and how it is that people just don't bounce back very quickly. And yes, DHAP has been phenomenal, all things considered. It's been sometimes a little bumpy, but it's been a phenomenal program for all of us to be involved in, because when you look at the numbers where we started with DHAP Ike as well as DHAP Katrina, in excess of 50-something thousand referrals, and we've worked both programs down to an end to the numbers that we're looking at now, approximately 3,000 for Ike. That's pretty impressive. It goes to show a couple of things. It goes to show that DHAP does work for families who need a little bit of assistance, but longer term than hotel stays, to get back on their way. And it also goes to show that we keep those families who are the most at risk and the most in need, that we do keep them with us as long as possible to try and find that ultimate solution for them. So we can't thank you enough. I mean, I think
Right.
Teresa and Iyaba are big supporters and big fans of it as well. And I think Teresa summarized it really well. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's because of your hard work that we've been able to tell a really good story about this program.
And I know that we all have enjoyed working with InfoPath. Thanks to the InfoPath team for your services and dedication to the program. Circling back to what Judith mentioned earlier, the standard operating procedures for the October 2011 DHAP Ike extension, they're currently still under review. However, upon approval, the updated SOPs will be emailed to all of you as soon as possible. The significant changes that you'll notice in the modified SOPs will include the pre-conversion activities, again, what we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. In order to expedite a conversion, should we get the conversion vouchers, HUD and FEMA have agreed to specific incentive fees. In the event of a conversion to the HCV program, there is special allocation of vouchers. PHAs may earn up to $250 per family for the performance of activities associated with HCV eligibility determination and HQS. In preparation of a possible HCV conversion, PHAs would receive a one-time fee of $150 per family, in which they complete an eligibility determination for. Again, that eligibility determination is for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That's a one-time fee of $150. The PHA must obtain verification of eligibility in accordance with the CFR, of course. In addition, PHAs would earn a one-time fee of $100 for the added processing, outreach, and reporting in DIS related to the housing at the HQS inspection. Again, circling back to what we touched on earlier, the HQS inspection can only be done for families who wish to lease in place. At this time, because we do not have vouchers, we are not encouraging families or PHAs to vacate their current units or leases in search of a unit that may be acceptable under the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So for families who wish to lease in place, you can certainly earn the $100 fee for. And again, the inspection and must be in accordance with the Housing Choice Voucher Program's policies. Moving on from there, it's also very important to update DIS accordingly for any pre-conversion activities. In specific, there are drop-down, and Nick, I'm sure, can describe it much better than I can, but there are drop-down boxes within DIS that PHAs can go into the system and input when the assessment for eligibility has been performed, and I believe the outcome as well.
Yes.
And then as well, when the HQS inspection was performed, as well, the outcome. So in order to receive the fees, which I just mentioned, the $100 and $150 fees, you must enter this data into DIS. Did you want to add anything onto that, or?
That's it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So again, as always, if you have any questions or concerns, you're more than welcome to contact me directly. Of course, the DHAP-IKE@HUD.gov mailbox is still being addressed, and queries are still being answered within 2 business days at the most. You'll usually get a response much sooner. But please do keep us informed of any questions or concerns that relate to the extension of DHAP-IKE, or for some of you, the closeout.
Great, thank you. You mentioned something that I think is really important to really stress about the moving and the leasing in place. It's really, really, really important to drive home the point that we do not have notice yet on whether or not we will receive conversion vouchers. So we cannot encourage individuals to move to a unit that they would ideally choose for conversion unless there's a severe extenuating circumstance or something completely out of the norm. We would ask that there not be any movement, because again, should we not receive conversion vouchers, that would probably put the PHA and the family in a pretty tough spot with that new unit and that new lease and all the things that come along with that. The minute we know, we will let you know as quickly as possible. So if you would like to start queuing up whichever families have expressed interest or need to move for whatever reason, or units that will not meet HQS inspections, if you could maybe keep a side note of that, and we can work with you to prioritize those should we get conversion. But for right now, we just really can't encourage any movements or anything because we're not in a place where we know what's going to happen. But if you have a case by case, definitely shoot it on over to Teresa, and she will be happy to work with you on those situations. No. And all joking aside, definitely send it to us, because we have had a couple of extenuating circumstances.
I think a common case by case email that we have been receiving is regarding families who wished at this point to move out of their DHAP-IKE unit, lease up again under DHAP-IKE, but at a higher cost unit. We did stipulate earlier that you can send those cases to us and we can work them out on a case-by-case issue. However, at this point, I must say that we have not yet heard or have explored a reason that would qualify a family to move to a higher cost unit at this point in the program. So again, something we're more than happy to discuss and interpret policy with you and look into, but the outcome is more likely than not, no, families cannot move to a higher cost unit.
Exactly. We're going to ask that you exhaust all searches in your surrounding area. A, first and foremost, that they not move. But B, secondly, if we are looking at a family that needs to move and the reason that they're moving is one of safety or habitability or availability issue for that particular unit, then the next thing that we would ask would be that you exhaust all potential equal resources in that area. Going to another unit that incurs a higher cost is just not something we can justify at the moment. And with the program where it is right now, we are reporting to FEMA pretty regularly, and they're watching our numbers pretty closely. As you may have seen in the news, these are some pretty tough times for FEMA and for the federal government, and there's just, with the program closing, it's just really important that we maintain good stewardship of these program dollars and justify. So it's not just for the simple sake of saying no. We assure you that there is some definite rationale behind that decision. So we will work with you. But if it's not safety, security, or the unit is no longer available for whatever reason, the answer, as Teresa mentioned, will most likely be no if it's just moving for the sake of moving. And that's just a really important point to drive home, because it's something that's come up a couple of times in the past, actually more than a couple of times in the past couple of weeks, and it's something that we really want to make sure that we mention now. As with all of our other broadcasts, we'll be sending out notes to summarize the different points that we've all talked about, because I know that we've covered quite a bit of information. But in closing, Nick, any last notes, any last words or anything?
Just please feel free to contact us at any point with any questions. As it relates to the reconciliation and closeout, we're here to assist.
Great, thank you. Lawrence?
Yeah, just any questions you have, even prior to getting this this formal notice and checklist, just give me a call, and look forward to seeing some of you all out there in the field in the next month.
Excellent. Teresa?
Again, just thank you for your continued service and dedication to DHAP Bike.
Great, and I definitely echo that sentiment, as does Iyabo, who's not here with us today. But thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for all that you continue to do. And the minute that we have any information whatsoever on conversion and the status of our SOPs, we'll be in touch with you as quickly as possible. But thank you all. Thank you.